The beast he saved was the Warden's forgotten heirloom predator. The battered hull of the Star Wanderer blazed as it tore through the storm-racked skies of Varela 4. Alarms screamed in Ethan Cross's ears, drowning out the thunder of turbulence and the ragged gasp of his own breath. The cockpit flickered with dying lights and warning glyphs. Sweat streamed into his eyes as he fought the bucking flight yoke, wrestling the crippled freighter toward a fleeting break in the emerald canopy below. On the forward screen, the planet's unbroken jungle surged up to meet him, alive, hostile, and utterly uncharted. Ethan's cargo run had gone catastrophically wrong. Syndicate warships, sleek and predatory, had hounded him across 3 systems. Their plasma fire had torn holes in his ship's spine and slashed the main drive to shreds. He'd jumped blind, desperate, and landed here, in the heart of a storm that battered his hull with sheets of jade-green rain. The Star Wanderer groaned around him, metal shrieking as atmosphere ripped at her wounds. "Come on, old girl, hold together just a little longer," Ethan muttered, voice raw. He scanned for a clearing, any gap in the tangle below. Just as his failing thrusters sputtered their last, he spotted a narrow glade, a patch of darkness amid the glowing green. Impact came as a roar and a rending. The freighter crashed through towering ferns, severed vines, and ancient branches, skidding across loam in a spray of sparks and debris. Ethan's world spun, the harness biting his shoulders. Metal screamed, glass shattered, and then, with a final shuddering groan, silence. He hung there, stunned, breath ragged. A panel sparked overhead. With trembling hands, he released the harness and crawled from the battered cockpit. The corridor was a tangle of ruptured conduits and shattered crates. Ethan snagged his battered toolkit and a flickering distress beacon, slinging both over his shoulder. His legs felt rubbery as he stumbled through the ruined hatch, blinking as he emerged into a world of choking humidity and shifting emerald shadows. The air was thick, alive. Every breath tasted of moss and distant rain. Strange, haunting calls echoed through the undergrowth, and somewhere, something heavy shifted in the gloom. Vines like glass snaked overhead, their tips pulsing with eerie bioluminescence. Ethan's boots sank into mossy ground as he scanned the ruined hull, his mind racing for options. There was no salvaging the ship, not with this damage. He flicked the distress beacon to life, watching its pale blue pulse vanish into the jungle's suffocating depth. A branch snapped. The shadows to his right twisted. Ethan spun, heart hammering, toolkit raised like a weapon. A guttural snarl rooted him in place. From the tangled foliage burst a monstrous creature, 6 legs, each muscled and reptilian, its hide slick and scaled, stretched taut over rolling sinews. Claws like daggers gouged the soil, fangs bared in a snarl that reeked of old blood and fresh hunger. Its twin ridges rose along its skull, framing enormous twitching ears, ears that turned, searching for the faintest sound. Ethan backed away, breath tight in his chest, every instinct screaming to run. Then, from the gloom, another figure emerged. She was neither fully human nor entirely alien, a vision of wild beauty and dangerous authority. Her skin shone a vibrant, living green, as if shaped by the jungle itself. Long, pointed ears flickered with every whisper of sound. Her mane of deep purple hair tumbled around 2 elegantly curved, back-swept horns, the color of bruised dusk. Eyes like molten gold fixed on Ethan, sharp and unyielding. She moved with a predatory grace, bone and metal armor clinging to her lithe, powerful form. The plates bore the marks of battle and time, scratched, scorched, yet regal. Her hand rested lightly on the hilt of a weapon at her hip. "You trespass on sacred ground, off-worlder," she declared, her voice low and edged with command. "I am Jara Lys, Warden of the Verdant Expanse. Speak your purpose, or be judged by my companion." Ethan's voice rasped out, battered but defiant. "Ethan Cross, merchant, my ship's down. No threat intended, Warden." Her golden gaze swept over the shattered cargo, the scattered crates, the scorched hull. "Merchant, your vessel's wounds tell another story." Her lips curled with skepticism. "Contraband, encrypted chips, munitions, not a trader's haul." As she spoke, two more figures materialized from the trees, one tall and wiry, scales gleaming like silver in the dappled light, the other shrouded in a camouflaged cloak, crossbow aimed and ready. Ethan forced his hands open, showing empty palms. "I salvage what I can, just surviving." Jara stepped closer. There was a scent to her, earthy, electric, alive. Her armor glinted as she circled him, the monstrous beast, Vekar, she called it, never straying from her side. "Your ship is lost. You will not last a night here, unless you prove yourself useful." She paused, measuring him. "My own ship sleeps, hidden, an ancient vessel. She needs awakening. I need your skills, off-worlder." The bargain was plain, her protection and a chance at survival, in exchange for his craft. Ethan weighed his chances. The jungle loomed, alive with unseen dangers, and syndicate ships might yet be hunting above. But beneath Jara's command, he glimpsed a flicker of something else. A loneliness, an ache, and something about her wild, ferocious beauty drew him in. He set his jaw. "Show me your ship," he said, sealing his fate. Jara's lips twitched in a rare, genuine smile. "Follow me, human. Stray, and Vekar will silence you." At her gesture, the beast padded forward, its claws digging silent furrows in the moss. The two other guardians melted into the trees, weapons always watching. Ethan followed. The jungle swallowed the ruins of the Star Wanderer, leaving only memories in the shifting shadows. They moved through wonders Ethan could never have imagined. Fungi grew in crystalline towers, chiming softly whenever the wind touched them. Colossal trees arched overhead, their trunks braided with silver vines, leaves glittering with dew that glowed faint blue. At one point, bioluminescent creepers unfurled from the undergrowth, twining together to form living bridges. Ethan stumbled often, awed and wary. Jara moved with feline ease, her armor catching the shifting light. As they traveled, Jara revealed fragments of her story. "Soul-Piercer was once the pride of my people, before the fall. She sleeps now, wounded and alone. The jungle reclaims all things in time, but her spirit lingers. I cannot wake her, not alone." "What happened to your crew?" Ethan asked, careful, respectful. She was silent for a moment. "Gone, lost to war, to exile. I am all that remains, warden, caretaker, memory." Her words carried a weight, but also defiance. They pressed onward. Shadows grew long as the twin moons rose, pale and watchful. At last, the trees parted, revealing a vast, natural amphitheater lined with ancient stone. At its center rested the Soul-Piercer, unlike any vessel Ethan had seen. Its hull was all alien curves and ancient scars, a fusion of organic and mechanical, silvered bones rising from emerald moss. Vines had crept across her hull, but the ship seemed to breathe, the air around it alive with a low, thrumming resonance. Ethan stepped forward, awe in his eyes. "She's beautiful. And sad." Jara's voice trembled with pride and sorrow. "She remembers every wound, every loss. Will you help me bring her back, Ethan Cross?" Before he could answer, Jara spun, drawing a blade that hummed with crackling energy. She struck, a test, sudden and fierce. Ethan ducked, toolkit swinging up to block, then feinted right, barely dodging a sweep that sizzled past his ear. He grinned, adrenaline surging, and twisted, using a broken branch to lever the weapon from her grip. It clattered to the moss. They faced each other, breathless. Tension charged the air, a heartbeat balanced on the edge of violence and trust. Jara laughed, delighted, the sound wild and free. She extended her hand, and Ethan took it, helping her up. As they stood together, The jungle seemed to hush, as if watching. "Not bad for an off-worlder," she teased, her eyes glinting. He grinned, heat blooming in his chest. "Not bad yourself." She led him to the soul piercer, Vekar pressing a taloned paw to the ship's organic seal. The hull rippled, parting like a living membrane. Inside, the corridors glowed with gentle, shifting light, the walls pulsing in time with some deep, slow heartbeat. Ethan stared, awestruck. The ship felt alive, as if it waited for something, or someone. Jara leaned close, her breath warm on his neck. "Listen, she still dreams." He closed his eyes and felt it, the dormant spirit of the ship, a longing that echoed his own, and beneath it, Jara's presence, fierce and near. She challenged him, voice soft but commanding. "Show me your craft, Ethan Cross. Prove your worth." He nodded, determination settling in his bones. "Let's wake her up." As Jara guided him deeper into the living ship, the twin moons climbed higher, pale light filtering through the soul piercer's ancient hull. The ship's slumbering soul awaited, and as Ethan set to work, he knew this was only the beginning of survival, of alliance, and perhaps of something far greater. The engineering core was a marvel. Crystalline reactors rose like the frozen spires of an alien cathedral, their facets pulsing with dormant light. Living circuitry threaded through the walls, veins of silver and emerald that twisted and reknit themselves with every touch. Ethan stood in the center of it all, awestruck. The technology was centuries beyond anything he had seen, a fusion of artistry and purpose that made even the finest syndicate warships seem crude. He knelt beside the fractured power lattice, tools scattered at his feet. The break was ugly. An energy surge had seared the organic conduits, leaving gnarled scars. But it was not beyond hope. Ethan's fingers worked carefully, coaxing a hesitant response from the soul piercer's sleeping systems. The ship felt alive under his hands, as if it remembered how to heal but had forgotten why. Above him, on a sweeping mezzanine, Jara watched in silence. She had shed her battle-worn armor for a suit that shimmered like liquid obsidian, hugging her form and catching the shifting light in 1,000 hues. Her horns caught the glow, and her eyes, molten gold, never left him. Each time she moved, Ethan's gaze followed, drawn by the liquid grace of her motions, the strength in her shoulders, the confidence in her bearing. She spoke, her voice echoing from the crystalline walls. "When my ancestors carved the soul piercer from the heart of a dying star, they did not know what she would become. She was meant to be a flagship for a dynasty of wardens, a home, a weapon, a sanctuary." Ethan adjusted a circuit and looked up, curiosity burning through fatigue. But something changed? Jara's gaze turned inward, her voice softer. "The wars came. The verdant expanse fell. I was left with only the soul piercer and the ghosts of my kin. For years I wandered. The ship became my exile and my only companion." She studied him, searching for understanding. He nodded, threading a crystal into place. "I know what it's like to lose everything, to have a ship as your last friend." He hesitated, then added, "That's why I ran, lost my crew, lost my way, ended up smuggling, just to keep flying." Jara moved closer, descending the spiral steps until she stood above him. "You hide it well, Ethan Cross." The pain. There was no accusation in her tone, only kinship. He shrugged, lips twisting in a wry half-smile. "Out here you have to. Nobody cares about your scars. Only if you can get the job done." She crouched beside him, her armor whispering against the floor. "Sometimes, a single ship is all you need. Sometimes, one person can change everything." He met her gaze, their faces only inches apart. The engineering core hummed around them, light flickering across Jara's vibrant skin. "Then you understand," she said quietly. "More than you know," Ethan replied. For a long moment, the silence between them was not empty but full, of shared loss, tentative hope, and something fierce and new. Jara straightened, offering a hand. Come, see the soul piercer's heart. He followed her through winding corridors, past doors that opened like blooming flowers, past murals etched in silver and stone. Each step took them closer to the heart of the ship, where the pulsing thrum grew stronger, more insistent. At last, they reached the bridge, a chamber of glass and living wood, perched high above the jungle. The canopy of Varela 4 stretched below them, a sea of glowing emerald broken by the silver bones of ancient trees. The twin moons hovered low, their pale light washing the world in green and gold. Jara gestured to the wide command dais. This is the dreaming green, she said, reverence in her voice. A sacred time. The soul piercer listens to the stars. She remembers where she has been and decides where she will go. Ethan's hands hovered over the controls, which flowed and shifted to fit his touch. The ship responded, a ripple through the hull, a surge of power through the decks. The systems flickered awake, hesitant at first, then stronger as he coaxed them back to life. The crystalline displays blossomed with data, projections spinning in the air, navigation glyphs blooming like digital flowers. Jara watched him, surprise softening her features. She responds to you. I have tried for years, and she has never yielded so quickly. Ethan glanced at her, pride and humility mingling in his eyes. She chooses her own. She's chosen you for a long time. Maybe she just needed a second pair of hands. Jara's lips curled in a small, genuine smile. Or maybe she sees what I see. He toggled a control, and the engines shuddered, a low, eager song that vibrated through the deck. These aren't just functional. They're hungry. She wants to fly. Jara's eyes widened, a flush rising to her cheeks. We could leave this world, return to the stars, take back what was stolen. He grinned, hope flickering in his chest. Give me a few days. We'll have her soaring. Then we take back what you've lost. She stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking until he could feel the warmth of her presence in the cool, filtered light. You would risk your life for a cause not your own? Ethan's expression turned serious. He looked into her eyes, saw the hope and pain entwined in their depths. I'd risk it for you. Her breath caught, a faint tremor in her composure. For a heartbeat, neither moved, the air thick with possibility. Then Ethan reached out, cupping her face, his thumb brushing the line of her jaw. Jara's eyes fluttered shut as she leaned into his touch. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deepening, a kiss both gentle and fierce. It was a collision of worlds, human and alien, grief and longing and new desire. The soul piercer's awakening pulse rose around them, a living blessing, the ship herself rejoicing. Later, Jara led him to her crystalline quarters, a chamber awash with the jungle's nocturnal glow. Here, the walls refracted moonlight into shifting patterns across the floor, painting their skin in silver and green. Armor fell away, first hers, then his, until there was nothing between them but warmth and curiosity. Jara's touch was electric, her hands tracing the lines of old wounds and new hope. Ethan returned her kisses, slow and reverent, his fingers tangling in her wild purple hair. Their bodies moved together, unhurried, learning the language of scars and longing. For a while, there was no exile, no syndicate, no war. Only two souls rediscovering what it meant to be seen, to be chosen. Afterward, they lay entwined, the soul piercer humming a lullaby through the deck beneath them. Ethan watched the way the moonlight played over Jara's features, the shadows softening her fierce edges. He traced lazy patterns across her vibrant skin, memorizing every detail. What now? He asked quietly, his voice rough with wonder and fatigue. Jara shifted to face him, her golden eyes luminous in the half-light. Now we rebuild, she said. My home, my fleet, my legacy. But first, we wake the soul piercer fully. Her smile was fierce, full of promise. Then we show the stars what the verdant expanse truly means. Outside, the jungle sang, a chorus of life and hope. In the shelter of the ancient ship, cradled by one another and by the pulse of something greater, Ethan and Jara faced the coming dawn together, ready to begin anew. With the sun cresting the treetops, Ethan descended into the heart of the Soul Piercer, the ship's living walls parting for him with newfound trust. Light slanted through crystalline conduits, casting fractured rainbows across his path. The core thrummed with anticipation, the dormant systems now humming to life, eager for his hands. Since the awakening, doors that once rebuffed him now yielded, granting access to the most sacred systems, the heart of the ship's memory and power. He barely had time to marvel at the crystalline core before footsteps echoed from the entryway. Keenan Patch Ramirez appeared, an irrepressible grin splitting his scarred face. His hair was wild, his jacket patched from dozens of worlds, and his toolkit clanked with every step. Patch swept his gaze around the engineering core and whistled, low and impressed. "Never thought I'd see the inside of a living starship," Patch said, voice rough with awe. "Only you, Cross. Only you could drag me halfway across the spiral for this." Ethan clapped Patch on the shoulder, warmth and relief in the gesture. "You're the best tech I know, Patch. Couldn't do this without you. Besides, it's nice to have a familiar face, one that doesn't come with fangs or horns." Patch grinned wider, already rolling up his sleeves. "Let's see what this old beauty's hiding." Together, they approached the core, where the fractured crystal lattice awaited their attention. The lattice shimmered, strands of light weaving in and out, pulsing to a rhythm that felt almost like breath. Ethan reached out, careful and reverent, while Patch murmured to the ship as if coaxing a wild animal. Their hands moved in concert, Ethan steady, Patch's nimble, delicately aligning filaments and reconnecting ancient conduits. Where the ship's living network was too foreign for their tools, Patch improvised, using a sonic calibrator and a wire woven from the Soul Piercer's own hull. Jara's voice rang through the chamber, vibrant and close, though she was nowhere to be seen. "You're doing well. She accepts your touch." Ethan looked up, feeling the Soul Piercer's awareness encircling him. "She's alive, Jara. She wants to fly." Patch, brow furrowed, glanced between the shifting lights. "Feels like she's thinking with us. Never felt anything like it." "Treat her with respect," Jara replied, her words echoing from the walls. "She has seen many hands, but few have touched her heart." As Ethan and Patch worked, ancient pathways reconnected, and the Soul Piercer seemed to respond with joy, a rising hum, a warmth that spread through the deck. Ethan felt a bond forming, something deeper than mere mechanics. He was not just repairing a ship, he was reviving a living memory. Finally, with the last filament aligned, Ethan pressed the activation rune. Power surged, a cascade of light arcing through the core, systems awakening in a chorus that rose and rose, like a choir finding its voice after centuries of silence. The Soul Piercer's lights flared, then settled into a steady, vibrant glow. From the far side of the chamber, Jara appeared. She was radiant, clad in a gown woven from living fibers that shimmered with each step, shifting from deep green to starry silver. Her horns caught the light, and her golden eyes seemed to burn with pride. She crossed the floor without hesitation, her presence magnetic. Ethan reached for her, and Jara took his hand, her touch warm and sure. "You've awakened what was lost," she said, her voice soft but powerful. "The Soul Piercer remembers you now, Ethan. You're part of her story." He felt it, the acceptance, the belonging, as if the ship herself drew him into the circle of her memory. The loneliness of his old life, the losses and the running, faded for a moment. Here, with Jara and Patch, he was needed. He was home. Patch let out a low whistle. Never seen a ship come alive like this. It's like she's singing. Ethan squeezed Jara's hand. She's ready. As the soul piercer rose from her jungle cradle, the decks shuddered, and the world outside tilted. Massive roots and vines released their grip, and the ship's hull unfurled like the petals of a colossal flower. Light cascaded through the canopy as the soul piercer lifted, her engines singing with power. The jungle fell away, replaced by sky, then stars. On the bridge, crew gathered, Jara's guardians, Patch at the navigation console, Ethan at the helm. Jara stood at the center, radiant, her voice carrying authority and hope. "It's time to reclaim what was stolen," she declared. Ethan nodded, pulse racing. He turned to Patch, who was scanning star charts. "We'll need a route through Syndicate space. Can you plot a course without drawing attention?" Patch's fingers danced across the controls. "I'll thread us through the outer lanes, but our destination's another story." He glanced at Jara. "Where to, boss?" Jara's eyes were fierce. "The Spiral Veil. That's where Tarek Voss hides, the usurper, the one who betrayed my people. He made a fortress in the heart of the nebula. We take the soul piercer there. We show him what it means to face a true warden." The crew exchanged grim looks. The Spiral Veil was infamous. A shifting mass of gas and light filled with gravitational storms and pirate outposts. Few ships entered, fewer left. Ethan turned to Patch, determination burning in his eyes. "We'll need every trick you've got. The soul piercer's tough, but we're outnumbered." Patch grinned, the light of battle in his eyes. "Give me an hour, and I'll have her running circles around those clunkers. Just keep us alive, Cross." Jara watched them, her pride and anxiety visible in every line of her face. She moved to the console, caressing it with reverence. "She loves you," Ethan said quietly, watching the way her fingers lingered on the living metal. Jara smiled, a shadow of sorrow in her golden gaze. "As I love her, she is the last of my people's hopes, a memory forged in war and carried through exile." Her hand tightened on the console. "She's chosen you as well, Ethan. The soul piercer chooses only those who understand loss and the courage to hope again." Ethan felt the ship's spirit enfold him, fiercely protective. "Then let's not disappoint her." The soul piercer's leap into hyperspace was unlike any jump Ethan had ever experienced. Instead of the wrenching distortion of standard drives, the ship slipped between realities with the softness of a sigh, the deck humming in harmony with the crew's heartbeats. Colors bent and refracted, time itself seeming to pause, then accelerate. Ethan reached for Jara's hand. She squeezed back, her eyes locked on the view screen. The stars fell away. When the soul piercer emerged, the nebula bloomed before them, a churning sea of violet and gold, shot through with lightning and veils of cosmic dust. The spiral veil was beautiful, but deadly. Patch peered into the swirling depths, his usual swagger replaced by wariness. "A whole fleet, Ethan. Tarek's dug in deep. Frigates, patrol ships, sentry platforms. I count at least 24 signatures." Ethan absorbed the news, jaw tightening. "We'll never get through alone. We need allies." Jara straightened, her presence commanding. "We will find them." The verdant expanse had friends once, exiles, survivors, those who remember the old oaths. Some still owe the soul piercer their loyalty. I can call them. Patch grinned, hope flickering in his eyes. "A real fleet, then. Haven't seen that in years." Ethan gave the order. "Take us in, Patch, slow and quiet. We'll scout their defenses, find a weak point, and wait for Jara's signal." The soul piercer slipped deeper into the nebula, her hull shimmering with cloaking energy, hungry for the fight to come. On the bridge, the crew braced for the unknown, united by purpose, by hope, and by the living spirit of the ship herself. The hunt for justice had begun. The soul piercer prowled the nebula's edge, her hull veiled in swirling stardust, the glow of distant suns painting her silvered flanks with flickering violet and gold. Within the ship, tension thrummed in every corridor. Ethan sat at tactical, eyes narrowed, his fingers flying over the living interface as he mapped enemy patrols, watching for the slightest break in the swirling chaos of ships that orbited Tarek's citadel. On the main view screen, the mining citadel loomed, a monstrous fortress of metal and rock, studded with defense platforms and ringed by mines. The asteroid belt surrounding it was a graveyard of shattered ships, silent warnings to any who dared approach. Ethan zoomed in on the Sovereign's Pride, a vessel whose lines ached with memory, Jara's family crest still emblazoned, though the ship now bristled with Tarek's guns. Jara stood at the command dais, her presence calm and calculating. "He keeps it as a trophy," she said, voice cold. "To remind the fleet who rules here." Ethan shot her a look of grim sympathy. "He's going to regret that." She nodded, but her focus never wavered. With every scan, she devised new approaches, searching for weakness. "The Citadel's defenses are too tight for a frontal assault. We'll need a distraction, something to divide his fleet." Footsteps echoed behind them, heavy, deliberate. Vekar entered the bridge, his massive form framed by the starlit archway. But something had changed. His posture was regal, his eyes bright with intelligence. He padded to the center of the bridge, and when he spoke, his voice rolled out deep and resonant, carrying the weight of ages. "I am the last of the Veirathi, ancient guardians of the verdant line. I have watched over Jara's kin for centuries." The bridge fell silent. Ethan's hands froze over the console, stunned. All this time, Vikar had been more than a beast. He was a sentient protector, one whose loyalty ran deeper than blood. Jara stepped forward, awe and recognition mingling in her golden eyes. "Why reveal yourself now, old friend?" Vikar's gaze lingered on her, softening. "Because Tarek is awakening the void phantoms, ancient beings of entropy, sealed before your ancestors took to the stars. If unleashed, they will consume worlds. The boundary grows thin. I feel it in the ship's bones." Patch, at the sensor array, blanched. "Void phantoms? Are we talking extinction level bad?" Vikar nodded. "Tarek seeks to wield them as weapons, but their hunger cannot be sated. They will destroy all, friend and foe alike." A shadow crossed Jara's face, fear, then iron resolve. "Then we stop him, no matter the odds." Ethan looked at the fleet strength, one ship against dozens, with the Citadel bristling with weapons. "We're outnumbered, outgunned, and outflanked. Unless—" Vekar turned his massive head, golden eyes intent. "The soul piercer is not what she seems. Through the Warden's bloodline, she can channel ancient energies. The bond is yours to awaken, Jara Lys." As if in response, the ship's systems shifted. New interfaces unfurled across the consoles, glyphs and runes blooming in emerald and silver, the ship's spirit reaching out to both Ethan and Jara. Power surged through the decks, fusing human ingenuity with the old traditions of the verdant line. Ethan felt the soul piercer's presence grow, protective, fierce, and suddenly, limitless. Jara pressed her palm to the command seal. The ship pulsed, and a wave of connection flooded the bridge. "I feel her. Her pain. Her hope. She's ready." Ethan grinned, exhilarated. "Then let's use what she's offering. Patch, cross-reference the Citadel's energy patterns. If Tarek's performing a ritual, he'll need to tear open the fabric of reality at a focal point. There must be a weakness." Patch's hands flew over the controls. "There's a vent in the reactor core, shielded but exposed during energy surges. If we hit it, we could force a shutdown, or at least disrupt the ritual." Jara's eyes gleamed. "We'll never make it through alone. But Tarek's rule isn't absolute. Some captains still remember the old oaths. If we can rally the loyalists, Ethan nodded. We need a signal, something only your true followers would recognize. Vekar rumbled. The Starblade served your mother. Her captain is honorable. Use the anthem of the verdant expanse, woven with the ancient code. They will answer. The plan took shape in moments. The Soul Piercer would reach out to the Starblade, rallying loyalists across the fleet. While their ship staged a diversion, the Soul Piercer would slip through the asteroid field, using her new abilities to evade detection and strike at the Citadel's heart. Ethan called up the communication array, his voice steady. This is the Soul Piercer, Warden's flagship. All loyal ships, stand by to receive code. Jara stepped beside him, her voice joining his in the ancient anthem, a haunting melody that echoed with memory and hope. The sacred code unfurled in light, carried across encrypted channels. Moments later, the Starblade responded. On the screen, Captain Sarai's silver-scaled visage appeared, her expression fierce. Warden Liss, we have waited long for this day. The Starblade stands with you. Across the fleet, more signals flickered in. Old warships and battered corvettes, their crews raising the anthem. The tide was turning. Patch punched the air. We've got our distraction. All we need is midnight. Ethan mapped the asteroid graveyard, searching for a route through the shifting chaos. The Soul Piercer's new systems pulsed under his hands, intuitive, alive, ready to ride gravitational eddies and cloak herself in silence. I've got a path. It'll be tight, but she can do it. Jara clasped his shoulder, gratitude in her eyes. I trust you, Ethan. We all do. Time crept forward, the bridge alive with preparation. Loyalist ships took up their positions, hidden among debris fields and sensor shadows. The Soul Piercer powered down external lights, her hull blending with the nebula's swirling gold and violet. At midnight, Jara gave the order. Loyalist ships surged from the dark, weapons blazing. Enemy squadrons scrambled to respond, alarms flashing across the citadel. Amid the chaos, the Soul Piercer slipped into the asteroid field, her engines whisper quiet, riding invisible waves of gravity. Ethan guided her through the tumbling stone labyrinth, each near miss a heartbeat away from disaster. Patch called out coordinates, Vekar's low voice offering warnings. Jara's presence anchored them all, her connection to the ship growing deeper with every pulse. They pierced the Citadel's perimeter undetected. Ethan scanned the defenses, searching for the vulnerable vent in the reactor core. There, he shouted, highlighting the target. It's open, barely. Jara's voice rang with command. All power to forward shields. Target the vent. The Soul Piercer responded, her weapons blazing in an eruption of emerald fire. The blast speared into the heart of the citadel, shaking its foundations. Across the fleet, loyalists pressed their advantage, striking at the usurper's forces. The battle for the verdant expanse had begun. The assault was swift and surgical. The Soul Piercer swept in from the shadows of the asteroid field, her cannons firing with pinpoint precision. Emerald fire cut through the darkness, slamming into the Citadel's reactor housing. Each shot sent tremors rippling through the massive station, shattering defensive turrets and silencing batteries before they could turn. Loyalist ships surged in the wake of the barrage, their anthem echoing across open channels, a battle cry for a stolen legacy. But it was not enough. Above the battered citadel, reality itself pulsed and warped. A ragged rift, torn open by Tarek's ritual, throbbed with hungry violet light. Shadows writhed within it, void phantoms, clawing at the torn edges of space, their howls silent but chilling to the bone. The Soul Piercer's sensors wailed warnings. Time was running out. Reactors crippled, but the ritual is accelerating, Patch shouted from the tactical console, sweat streaking his brow. We can't dock. Shields are repulsing everything. Jara gripped the command dais, face set with grim resolve. We get inside, now. Vekar stepped forward, eyes glowing with ancient power. His voice echoed with the resonance of centuries. There is a way. The rite of phase walking, lost to most, but not to the Verathi. He raised a claw, tracing a sigil in the air. The ship responded, her hull shimmering as reality bent. Ethan felt his skin prickle, his vision blurring as the soul piercer slipped between worlds. For a heartbeat, all was silence and starlight, and then, with a lurch, the ship snapped back into being, embedded deep within the Citadel's core. Alarms shrieked around them, red lights spilling through the bulkheads. Ethan bolted from his station, Jara and Patch at his side, Vekar a living shadow behind. Their scout, Nira, melted from the gloom, her camouflaged cloak flickering. "This way," she hissed. "The shortest path is through the maintenance arteries. Follow close." They plunged into the corridors. Jara became a whirlwind, her energy blades singing as she cut down Marines in their path. Ethan and Patch flanked her, exchanging precise bursts of fire, their movements practiced and desperate. Vekar roared through the tight spaces, a tempest of claws and void energy, scattering armored foes like leaves in a storm. Nira darted ahead, disabling traps and rerouting security systems, her every movement honed by years of survival behind enemy lines. The deeper they went, the more the Citadel trembled. Pulses of void energy rippled through the walls, warping metal and glass, making the air shimmer with unearthly cold. Every step was a race against time. They reached a barricade, enemy Marines entrenched before the final doors. Jara advanced, eyes blazing. "Stand aside," she commanded, her voice echoing with Warden's authority. The Marines hesitated, then fired. Vekar surged forward, his form erupting with tendrils of shadow and light. He swept the defenders aside, their weapons useless against his storm. The path cleared, the team surged through the doors, hearts pounding. Inside the ritual chamber, chaos reigned. Tarek stood at the center, draped in stolen regalia, arms raised to the rift that boiled above him. Sigils burned on the floor, feeding power into the breach. The void phantoms circled, their forms half seen, fractured wings, grasping claws, faces lost to memory. Tarek's eyes met Jara's, wild with triumph and terror. "You're too late, Liz. The phantoms answer to me now." But as he reached for their power, the first phantom struck, its jaws of shadow closing around him. Tarek screamed, his form unraveling, devoured by the very forces he had summoned. The phantoms turned, sensing new life, their hunger growing. Patch swore, backing against the wall. "If they break free," Vekar's voice thundered, shaking the chamber. "The breach cannot be closed from this side. The void is too strong." Jara's jaw set. "Then we do it together. I will not lose my home to darkness." She reached for the soul-piercer's spirit, the ship answering with a surge of power. Ethan stepped to her side, their hands finding each other, fingers interlacing. The soul-piercer's energy flowed through them, ancient, fierce, alive. Patch and Nira joined the circle, Vekar anchoring their will, the living memory of the Veirathi binding them. The phantoms pressed in, their forms shifting, eyes burning with cold fire. Ethan and Jara stood firm, their bond amplifying the ship's might. "We are more than flesh," Jara whispered. "We are memory and hope." The soul-piercer's spirit blazed, merging human and warden, guardian and ship. Ethan felt himself dissolving, his consciousness spilling into Jara's, into the ship, into the vastness beyond. They became beings of light and memory, their forms radiant and insubstantial. The phantoms clawed at them, but could not touch their essence. "We have to reach the array," Ethan said, his words thought, not sound. "Together," Jara replied. They flowed through the chamber, passing through phantoms unharmed, memories flashing between them. Jara's childhood beneath the moons, Ethan's long nights among the stars, the soul-piercer's countless journeys, Vekar's ancient watch. At the heart of the ritual, the array pulsed, unstable, the breach gaping wide. They focused their joined will, manipulating the swirling energies. The breach fought back, void winds screaming, trying to tear them apart. But their unity was a beacon, a song of home and belonging. The rift buckled, shrinking as reality reasserted itself. The phantoms howled, their forms twisting and breaking as they were dragged back into the void. With a final surge, the rift collapsed, its edges snapping closed in a blaze of white light. The array shattered, the last of the phantoms screaming as they were banished beyond time. The world lurched. Ethan and Jara fell apart, separate, corporeal, gasping for breath. The chamber shuddered as the citadel began to collapse around them. Vecker appeared at their side, battered but resolute. "It is done. The threat is contained, for now, but the void remembers." Patch pulled Nira to her feet, urgency in his voice. "We need to move. The whole station's coming down." They ran, retracing their path through smoke and falling debris. The Soul-Piercer's spirit called to them, guiding them to a bay where she had phased, her hull shimmering with residual energy. They dove aboard, alarms blaring, the ship's systems roaring to life. "Hold on!" Ethan shouted, hands flying over the controls. The Soul-Piercer surged from the crumbling citadel, the station collapsing into the rift's dying embers. Behind them, the last echoes of the void faded. In the silence that followed, Jara leaned against Ethan, her strength and exhaustion mingled. Patch and Nira embraced, the weight of survival heavy on their shoulders. Vekar stood watchful, his golden eyes reflecting the stars. The war was not over, but Tarek was gone, his ambitions devoured by the darkness he had unleashed. Together, aboard the living ship that had become their home, they prepared for what came next. The long road to reclaim Jara's world. The Soul-Piercer emerged from hyperspace above Lysara Prime, the heart and crown of the verdant expanse. On the bridge, Ethan drew a sharp breath as the world filled the viewport, an emerald jewel awash in the gold of its twin suns, ringed by bands of living silver. Cities unfurled below, crystalline towers aglow with living light, their forms blending nature and artifice into a vision of impossible beauty. For a long moment, the crew could only stare in awe. Ethan turned to Jara, standing at his side. The sight of her homeworld, restored to her at last, filled her golden eyes with tears she made no attempt to hide. "It's more beautiful than I ever imagined," Ethan whispered, his voice reverent. Jara pressed her hand to the glass, her voice trembling with memory. "Lysara Prime, my birthright, and the promise I made to my ancestors, to see it again, whole, alive. I thought I'd lost this forever." Patch glanced between them, his usual bravado softened. "It's like something out of a legend." But the moment was fleeting. Defense satellites and patrol ships bristled in orbit, their weapons tracking every approach. The planet's surface flickered with the luminous shimmer of an energy shield, strong enough to turn away an armada. Ethan frowned, calculating the odds. "We'll never make it through that shield," he said quietly. "They'll see us coming." Jara's lips curled in a knowing smile. "Not if we take the path of roots. It's an ancient passage. Only the blood of wardens and the bond of guardians can open it." She turned to Vekar, whose massive form radiated power and patience. Vekar bowed his head. "The time has come, shall we?" Jara extended her hand to the Soul-Piercer's interface. The ship's spirit answered at once, crystalline lights blooming at her touch. Vekar stepped forward, claws tracing ancient runes along the console. Energy arced between them, Warden, Guardian, and ship, the triad of verdant lore. A pulse of green and silver radiated from the Soul-Piercer's hull, reaching toward the planet below. As they neared the shield, an opening appeared, a swirling breach framed by roots of living light. "Now, Ethan," Jara said, her voice steady. He guided the Soul-Piercer through, heart pounding. Alarms echoed on comms as patrols scrambled, but the ship slipped through unseen, gliding along the path of roots, invisible to all but those who remembered the old ways. The city unfolded before them, a patchwork of plazas, hanging gardens, and spiraling walkways. At the center, the grand hall rose, a spire of crystal and living wood. Brace for landing, Patch called, fingers dancing across the controls. The soul piercer swept down, engines humming, and settled in the central plaza. The ramp lowered, releasing a rush of cool, fragrant air. Crowds gathered, murmurs rippling through them as they caught sight of the legendary ship, long thought lost. Jara stood at the top of the ramp, every inch a warden in her regalia, armor woven from living fibers, horns crowned in silver, the mark of her line emblazoned at her breast. For a heartbeat, the plaza was utterly silent. Ethan stepped beside her, offering his hand. She took it, drawing strength from his presence. They descended together, the crowd parted, awe and hope blooming in every face. Jara's golden gaze swept the plaza, her voice ringing out, "People of Lysara Prime, your warden has returned." A roar of joy rose, cheers, tears, arms thrown skyward. But not all were loyal. From the shadows of the hall, Tarek's last followers rallied, weapons raised. Their leader, desperate, tried to seize control. "She is a usurper," he shouted. "The expanse belongs to those with the will to rule." Chaos threatened, but Vekar bounded forward, a force of nature, his eyes blazing with ancient fury. With a gesture, he stripped Tarek of the last vestiges of stolen power. The traitor collapsed, stunned, as the soul-piercer's spirit roared approval. Loyalists seized the moment, binding Tarek and dragging him away as the crowd erupted in thunderous acclaim. Jara's voice cut through the noise, commanding and clear. "No more division, no more darkness. Lysara Prime stands whole again." In the days that followed, Jara was restored as warden in ceremonies rich with ancient ritual and new hope. She stood before the council, Ethan at her side, Vekar ever watchful, Patch and Nira honored as saviors of the realm. The fleet returned, battered ships forming ranks in the sky. One by one, captains pledged loyalty, laying old grievances to rest. Traitors were exiled, their names struck from the rolls. The people feasted in the plazas, the city alive with music and laughter. Ethan watched Jara move among her people, regal yet human, fierce and kind. She had become more than a leader. She was the living heart of a reborn world. On the third night, as the city's lights danced in the air, Jara found him on the high balcony overlooking the grand hall. She stood beside him, silent for a moment, letting the peace of her home seep into her bones. "This is our home, Ethan Cross," she said at last, her hand slipping into his. "We faced the void together and brought light back to the expanse." He squeezed her hand, a smile tugging at his lips. "I never thought I'd have a place like this, or someone like you." Jara leaned in, her voice gentle but strong. "You are as much a part of this as I am. The soul piercer chose you for a reason." They stood together, watching as children played in the moonlit gardens, as the soul piercer gleamed in the plaza below, a symbol of renewal, her hull reflecting the light of 1,000 hopes. Ethan glanced at Jara, eyes soft. "What now, Warden?" She looked out over her city, the stars reflected in her golden eyes. "Now we heal. We rebuild. We show the stars what true unity means. A new era, forged from courage and hope." Below, the soul piercer thrummed, her song rising to the night sky. The war was won, but the greatest journey of healing, discovery, and love was just beginning, together. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.